Bonjour everyone, I am Nicole and welcome to Parlez-Vous CEO, where we ditch the corporate talk and get real about entrepreneurship. Each week, I chat with founders and CEOs who build businesses their way, through the failures, pivots, and breakthroughs. And they bring the fire. Plus, I'll drop some golden nuggets of wisdom from my own entrepreneurial journey. This is your space to grow, learn, and evolve with a true growth mindset. Remember, success isn't about perfection, it's about persistence. Now let's kick things off and get this party started. Hello, bonjour, and bonjour, hello. Welcome to another episode of Parlez-Vous CEO. My name is Annelise Caillez, and I am your host, and I am super excited to have with me today Nicole Bankhead from Texas. Nicole is an owner and a therapist from Serenity Wellness, and I look forward to diving into your story. But in your own words, Nicole, could you describe a little bit about your background, your story, and also how you started the business?
Yeah, my background starts a little bit from my own hardships, so my own personal trauma experiences as a child, and that kind of led me into the helping field. I was one of those people, even as a young adult, that really felt connected with helping others. And so I went into business thinking that business was where I needed or wanted to be, and that was mainly just around financial stability. And then I did get my business degree. And then as I was kind of in that corporate world, I decided that I didn't really feel like I was contributing much to something. So I shifted into doing something more in the helping field and went into education and started working in the education area and as a counselor there. Then went into private practice from there, and in that time knew that I had the mindset of a business person and started my own group practice pretty much right away.
That's amazing. Nicole, you've shared that your early trauma experiences ultimately led you to your calling in healing others. How can female entrepreneurs who are listening to us and who face significant personal challenges or setbacks reframe those experiences as a source of strength and clarity for their business mission?
Well, for myself, it really was what inspired me just to keep persevering through. So if there was a challenge, it was one of those that it was like, I've been through worse, and I made it on the other end of that. So it was that part of me that just kept saying, I challenged myself to have this end goal, and I'm not going to stop until I do.
And Nicole, so you left business and law because they felt you were feeling lost and maybe unfulfilled, and then found your true calling. What advice would you give to people who are successful on paper, but maybe feeling empty inside about making that brave pivots?
Yeah. So really it was about finding my purpose, But and even then, owning this business, it's taken time to find where my purpose lies in that as well. And so that is what's led me into working with psychedelics now for the healing world, and working with ketamine therapy, and also learning neurofeedback and helping heal the brain. So once I started really connecting with what felt good to me, what my purpose was, then that only made me become a better entrepreneur.
Mm-hmm. And so how was that move to being a therapist and decided to have your own practice? Those are really two different set of skills.
Yeah, I think having both degrees was helpful.
Mm-hmm.
And so it just turned into that type of mindset. So not every therapist has that type of business mentality, and that's okay, right? But for me, I enjoyed the challenge of growing other people as well. So instead of it was just growing my business, it was the fact that I could not help everybody with every modality out there. So there's so many different ways of helping children, There's different ways of helping teenagers. There's different ways of helping couples. And I was getting my marketing was doing really well. So we were getting a good range of people coming in and asking to work with us,
Mm-hmm.
but I couldn't do it all. And
Mm-hmm.
so that just really continued to push me to bring in another person.
Mm-hmm.
And so I typically would, at least in our world, I would just find what's that missing piece? What are we getting a lot of phone calls on? What seems to be a need in our area where we live? And then I would just bring somebody on that's their level of expertise, or that's their desire to work with that group of individuals. And that's just what helped kind of really grow us. So I have some that work with children. I have some that work with couples. I have some like myself that want to work with neurofeedback and healing the brain. I have people now that want to work with ketamine and learn how to work with psychedelics. And in that way, we're really having an opportunity to like broadly expand and help as many people as possible. And that's kind of where I went with that. It's like, how can I help more when I'm only just me? And so then
Mm-hmm.
it just transformed into bringing other people in.
That's amazing. And so you mentioned your marketing was working very well. I am a marketer, so I'm like, ding, 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 like, tell me about this. How is it like to market a business in the therapy space? And especially now that you're doing ketamine treatment, because it comes with a lot of restrictions. So I want to hear it from a business owner and a therapist. How has been that journey for you?
And so outside of ketamine, just marketing in the beginning when it was
Mm-hmm.
just therapy, so that was 8 years ago,
Mm-hmm.
then I just knew that a lot of that was going to come from our presence online. And so I just worked really hard to continue to build a website that was really speaking to people. And it took many years. I failed at it multiple times
Mm-hmm.
and had to re-go at it again. And so I
Mm-hmm.
finally found what was working. And it was helpful for me to meet with a lot of business coaches around that time.
Mm-hmm.
So I just would meet with multiple other therapists in our industry that was willing to talk with me, and then got their contacts and asked their advice. So I got really lucky to have some really good mentors,
Mm.
and then that shifted in my understanding of how to build that site, and also helped me get some good connections for my SEO.
Mm-hmm.
And so I just really, it was a slow process. I
Mm-hmm.
had to be patient. Once I got my SEO working, then things continued to just speed along as well. So I started with Google Ads, knowing that's
Mm-hmm.
a quick, fast way,
Mm-hmm.
and then moved into my SEO. And then Google My Business has been a really one of my strongest sources of where I get our people coming in from. And I
Mm-hmm.
have a really good team that works on enhancing my Google My Business and constantly checking and refreshing and making sure that we're listed up at the top. And that has been a really big helpful tool for us in terms of our marketing. Once I shifted from that and started getting into the world of ketamine, you're right in the sense that there's lots of limitations. And I cannot do ketamine Google ads. I can work with Meta, though. There's not as many restrictions with Meta.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's just where I go for that route right now. And referrals. The other good thing is that there are not a lot of people in our area that do ketamine like we do. So yes, they have IV ketamine, but do they have ketamine with therapy and combining those two together? And there's not many options for that in our area. And people are learning that just going to an IV clinic is not getting them those shifts in long term healing that they're looking for. There's like a missing piece. So when we work with ketamine at our office, we treat it like a psychedelic and we call it like just a part of the container, requiring many prep sessions, requiring integration in between, and dosing with us present. But I am psychedelic assistant therapy certified. So I really work with the medicine from a healing component of a psychedelic, which just allows for a more profound outcome to their healing experience. And people are
Mm-hmm.
really seeing major changes and shifts very rapidly in their healing that could have taken years of therapy. And that word of mouth is getting out there. And I think that's going to be our best way right now with working with a psychedelic is just word of mouth.
So I guess one of the limitations with providing ketamine assisted is you're gonna be, I mean, it has to be brick and mortar. You have to do it in person, right? You can't, there is no way to do remote treatment for ketamine therapy, or is there?
There is, yes. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, there's definitely even programs out there that people can do. I
Mm-hmm.
just personally like to hold space in person
Mm-hmm.
so that we can really try to understand the energy that's going on in the room
Mm-hmm.
and be there for the client if something becomes challenging.
Mm-hmm.
It's not as common to have challenging experiences with ketamine as it is with some of the other psychedelics, but it can happen. And I've seen it happen, rarely, but in over about 200 dosings that I've done, I've had about 5% of that where it has become a challenging experience. And if those people would have been on their own, that could have been even more challenging for them.
Mm-hmm.
So I like to hold space in person and really try to help people like work with the energy that of what's going on for
Mm-hmm.
them. So doing some energy work can be very helpful. And that's for me, I don't feel like you can connect with that through a screen.
And Nicole, how is the balancing act between being a business owner and a therapist? Like, how do you decide that amount of time I'm going to be working on the business and that amount of time I'm going to be working in the business? And do you sometimes say, I don't want to do one-on-one anymore. I just want to be a business owner, or vice versa? You decide, I don't really like that side of the business. I'd rather be a therapist. Is that something that come up?
Yeah, I mean, there are times where I kind of shift in that, but for me, I've just found my own balance. So I typically will see clients 3 days a week, and then the other 2 days, I purposely will work from home so that I won't schedule anybody else on my schedule, and I get to just work on the business during that time. I mean, we are in a position now where I can do a little less than I was doing, obviously, in the beginning. But for now, I try my best to keep it in that kind of balance. And to answer your other question, yes, there are times where I want to just work on the business and the growth of the business and not see as many one-to-one clients. But then there are times where that shifts and I want to see more clients and I don't want to be doing as much of the business. So I'm trying to just kind of create that balancing act for it. And again, as I go into things that are more, I'm finding even more passion about, like working with ketamine, I'm even more open then to having those kinds of clients on my schedule.
Mm-hmm.
And or as I go into working in with other psychedelics and possibly working at MD Anderson, then I will there get an opportunity to work with other psychedelics. And so then I find that that's going to hit on that part of the desire to still be healing others. I don't want to just be working on the business.
Right, that sounds like the sweet spot. And I am curious as to how you, again, I'm a marketer, so I have my marketing hat on and I'm curious about that subject. But if you brand yourself and you're using yourself to promote the business, build credibility, don't you have patients that then directly want to work with you and not work with your other therapists? They say, we want you, Nicole, we don't want to work with other people. And is that an issue?
It can be. Yeah, yeah. No, that can happen. I mean, obviously, what I've done is really showcased the beauty of working with all my other therapists. And so if somebody calls and they're like, but I only want to work with you, then I'll consult with them and have a phone call with them and just let them know that we meet every other week at our office as a team. So you're still getting the support of me as, and their as a therapist, but you're just working with them directly. Depending on what that client needs, there's a chance that that individual is better served as their therapist anyways. I'm not always a couples therapist. I've been working with couples more frequently now, but only if they're wanting to work with ketamine at the same time. And so I'm not, so that would be better served with one of my other clinicians. So I kind of like gear it towards that, knowing that those clinicians go through similar trainings I've been in. We work together to talk about those things. So it's trying to just help them understand that this person is just as qualified as I am, and that if for any reason it doesn't work, we're always open to switching them over to somebody else. And I want their feedback. I always give them my direct number and just letting me know. And I have never had anybody call me back and ask to switch for somebody else. I'm really, really intentional about the therapist that I bring into the practice. I make sure that they've got a similar mindset as me, and that their goals in terms of healing clients from like an inside inward healing, we're all like in our practice have that same similar goal where we want our clients to really understand this core root of what is going on for them. And that could be in the brain, it could be in the gut. So we have a functional medicine practitioner at our office as well. It could mean that they need medication. So we keep somebody there once a week for medication too. But if we find that just therapy alone isn't helping, then we have other services at our office that they can work with those other people at the same time as therapy. And again, then it all seems to work out really well.
I like what you said about being intentional with who you were hiring. Can you share with our audience a bit more about what you think is a good methodology when you're ready to hire? Because it's a big jump, right? Having your own practice and working solo versus starting to hire. And so what would be a piece of advice you would give to a therapist who is scaling, who is hiring?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I really try to be very slow and mindful. So I have questions that I might ask those other therapists that I think is going to come to me. I want to know what their mindset is in terms of healing their clients. I am not interested in having therapists who want to keep people on their schedules for years and years, right? Like I'm looking for therapists that want to do more continuing education, want to have other modalities under them like EMDR, and so it's just when I'm doing that interviewing, I'm really asking like as if I am a client that's going to be seeing this person and what's going to keep me with this person, but also help me feel like this person's going to help me heal, that they're not just going to see me week to week. And then I try not to rush the interview process. So I might interview 20 people if I can. It might take me a month. So I typically will look at further out. If I know that everybody in the practice is about 80% full, then it's about time to start looking at adding another person. And I want to do that way in advance so that I have plenty of time to interview as many people as I want so I don't feel rushed into bringing that person on.
I see. This is great tip. And where do you find this therapist? What are the websites for finding the best therapist?
That's really can be hard. I mean, I go through I go through Indeed. And then I'm in as many therapy Facebook groups as I possibly can be in.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll just start putting it out there in all of those groups that are local in the area
Mm-hmm.
that I'm looking for somebody. And then I'll put it out there to people I know that own other group practices and say, hey, have you interviewed anybody or have anybody reached out to you? And then on a regular basis, I get people reaching out to me and asking if we're hiring. And I often find that when I do have people reaching out to me, I will go ahead and interview them, even if I'm not ready to hire somebody. And then I never know. So the last 2 hires I've done, even though I wasn't quite ready, but I wasn't going to pass up that person. And that person came to me, right, and wanted to work at our office. And I felt like that was really kind of the universe saying, this is the person that needs to come in here. And they've already done the research on our website. They know what our mission and our visions are as our practice. They see the other modalities because we have it all over our website. So they see that we are really, truly trying to heal our clients at the root. And so knowing and hearing them coming in already with those statements says, this is the right fit. So that's kind of, again, that also goes to that marketing piece though. We are so visible online that when people are out there looking, then they're picking us up and they're reading about us and then they're wanting to work with us.
Mm-hmm.
So that helps too. But in the beginning, when I didn't have that visibility, Indeed and Facebook groups.
And after how long in business did you hire your first therapist?
Well, I did that probably pretty quickly within the first year.
Mm-hmm.
I was already hiring.
Mm-hmm.
I actually brought 2 people on right at the same time. But the
Right.
marketing was just there, and it was just, I needed it.
That's amazing that you have the business side, so I guess you understood the importance of getting patients in so that you can scale. That's amazing. I love hearing that. And I read your story, Nicole, and I want to talk about building while healing. You were simultaneously building your business and working through your own healing journey. So how can other female entrepreneurs prioritize their mental health and healing while managing the intense demand of growing a company?
Yeah, that's a really good question too. So, it's the same thing I would have told my clients, right? That you cannot help others unless you have your mask on first,
Mm-hmm.
right? And so I always say, what do they tell you when you're getting on an airplane, right? They always tell you to put your mask on first.
All right. Yeah.
And so even if you're in a business that's not of like the helping world, it doesn't matter. You own a business and your employees are also looking to you, right? So for you to be the best version of yourself, we all need some sort of therapy, right? We all have something, whether it's from childhood, whether it's from young adult, there's something there. And we ride with these core rooted beliefs that kind of get stuck. And so I suggest going through some sort of therapy, whatever that may be for
Mm-hmm.
you. For my husband and I, we found that over the last couple of years, psychedelic healing has been what has worked. We work with a lot of different plants, and we've been in other retreats, and that healing work has been transformational for both of us. So I just say find that thing that works for you, even if you're interviewing, just like, interviewing employees. If you're interviewing 20 different therapists with 20 different modalities, just figure out what that thing is that's going to work to help heal you. And that's only going to improve your ability of being a good business owner.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. And another question that I have for you, because as I read your story, I saw you're mom of twins.
I am.
So I want to discuss motherhood and entrepreneurship harmony. I don't use the word balance because I'm not sure about balance, but you struggled with infertility and then you became a mother of twins while running your own center. So how do you navigate your mental health challenges that come with being both a mother of twins, and an entrepreneur? Because in my world, you are a rock star. All the mom running businesses are rock stars.
Yeah, it can be really hard and really challenging. There are times where I've had to do some healing around that. So there is definitely some mom guilt that comes up, when I'm having to put the business first at times, but that is, my husband works within the business as well. So this is it. This is our livelihood. This is how we pay the bills. We don't have a backup plan. So we just try our best to find ways to make sure that we are shutting things down. And so, when we are home at 5:00, that's it. We don't pick up our computers. I have all the notifications turned off on my phones. We want to make sure that we can be really present with our kids. But then there is the knowledge and the understanding that when we are putting all of these things on our plate, it can feel like you are, everything feels like a challenge then. So I try to continue to just work on the healing around that. That's where plant medicine has come in for me and for Brian, and it's given us the ability to just trust in what we're doing. And we also share with our kids, like, we own a business. It's different. We do live a different life. We have the beauty of getting to go to your school whenever we want, right? We have this, we can go to every one of your field trips and we can do all the activities that are going on in your school because we don't have to ask somebody to take off. But then there is the aspect that if we go on a week-long vacation, there's likely going to be some time in there where we have to do some things because we own the business. Right? So there's definitely challenges, but then I just try to continue to remind myself of all the blessings that get to come along with owning your own business as well.
Absolutely.
So there's some gratitude in that.
And is Brian a therapist, or does he work on a business side?
He does our neurofeedback as well as functional medicine practitioner. So he's like a health coach. So he gets to do the lens neurofeedback. So he works on healing the brain and healing the gut. So there's some beauty around that as well. When you work with Brian, you're getting kind of a 2-for-1 deal because he tends to really give away his knowledge and his time. And so if people come in to do neurofeedback, they're also getting a lot of knowledge on what's going on in the gut and how that gut-brain axis is so important. And so they're doing some healing work around that with him. And so then there's some beauty in all of that, because then once we start to heal those two aspects, and then we already start to feel a whole lot better. And then as they're doing that alongside of therapy, right, now we're healing the mind, but then the brain has gotten healing, the gut has got some healing, and then we're seeing that like really long-term healing. No need to be in therapy every single week. We're not just getting coping skills and learning core roots of what's going on, but we are actually helping our clients heal the internal parts of them, like the brain and the gut.
That's amazing. I love hearing that. And with Brian, did you go into business right away together, or did you join in later? Like, how was that decision working with your partner?
So he actually spent over 20 years in the electrical industry and working within a family business. And he will openly admit, right, like that he had some other of his own mental challenges that he was struggling with at that time, and decided that that industry was not what was right for him. And so about 4 or 5 years ago, he shifted. And we always had talked about him coming into the business at some point. And then the universe just kind of threw that at us and said, nope, it's going to either happen now or not. And so we just took it. We took it as a sign and brought him in. He started learning neurofeedback, and he is really, really good at what he does with the lens neurofeedback. And then he did about a year of that, and then decided he wanted to start learning about the gut. And so he went through a year-long training and got certified to do functional medicine as well. And so those two pieces have just really inspired him to, hit that part. He's just a very compassionate and empathetic person. And he always knew that that was probably what was challenging him in the construction world. And so now he gets to hone in on like what he really truly is as an individual, and use that to empower others.
I love hearing that. This is music to my ears when you can connect your craft, what you're good at, your work, your career, when everything sinks in. It's really special. So I love that example. Nicole, I've read in your story, and we both know that entrepreneurship can be isolating. I mean, if you're not working with your partner, you start your own business, it can be incredibly isolating. And you mentioned in some of the readings that I had about you that you are very often your go-to friend, and you've been the go-to friend from a young age. So how would you say female entrepreneurs can build the support networks they need when they're used to being the ones supporting everyone else?
I mean, in my ways, I got lucky that our friend group we've all known each other our entire lives. So we didn't really have to do a lot of building, but where we have built is through networking in regards to our passion. So, working with psychedelics has put us out there in that area that we go to a lot of conferences, a lot of networking events, and not just with psychedelics, but with like holistic wellness, since Brian gets to work with the neurofeedback and he works with the functional medicine. So we join some holistic wellness networking groups in the area. Those then we're connecting with these like-minded people. And there are some people now in our life that we're just like, wow, it feels like we've known each other for as long as we've known some of our other friends that we've known longer. It's just because you're really forming this like bond and connection over these liked experiences and these shared knowledge and this passion, that you have. So whether it's for us, this passion for helping people with these other modalities, but anybody else that's got a business, once you start networking with other people that are related within your business, you feel connected because you both are just so passionate about that.
And about the process. I definitely myself felt very isolated in the beginning because most of my friends were on salary with traditional jobs. And it took me years to really I really started building my own community. I'm like, maybe it's not in my friend group that I have access to that. So let's just build it. I'm in New York, so there's so many other women entrepreneurs. So yeah, sometimes you definitely have to be very intentional with who you surround yourself with because entrepreneurship can be challenging and isolating. So surround yourself well with people who understand what you're building and are in the trenches with you.
Yeah, they can feel your stress, right? So most of the just networking out beyond just with those that are in the Holistic Healing Network, we are also networking with other business owners, and you feel each other's challenges, you feel each other's successes, right? And then you can also feed off of each other as well and like learn, even if it's not the same type of business. It's really beautiful to hear other people's ways of getting through marketing or hiring people. And got some other friends that own their own business. And it's been very helpful to have those conversations. But as a therapist, therapists can also be very isolated. Even though if you don't have a group practice, if you're just running your own solo practice, it can feel very isolating, even if you rent a room from somebody because you're sitting in this one room all day, just seeing client after client, you know? So I typically suggest like joining other therapy groups and network with other therapists, or if you can rent a room in a place that's got multiple other therapists and then, hey, let's have lunch together. I mean, that's one of the reasons why we meet every 2 weeks as a group is not just to collaborate, but also to feel connected.
That's really interesting. I love hearing that. And that's a great, I call them the golden nuggets. And the piece of advice as a therapist, it can feel isolating, and the importance of staying connected by meeting others, like being intentional about it. Otherwise, it's a lone road and it's not as much fun. Nicole, I want to talk about scaling with integrity. So if I'm not wrong, you've served over 20,000 patients as you've been maintaining your standard and offering new services that you've personally experienced. So how can other business owners and therapists scale their impact, but without compromising their values or burning out?
So, I mean, again, I think that goes back to who you're bringing into the group with you, right? Feeling like those people's values align with yours, and then just doing a lot of regular check-ins. So what can I do to help you? How can I help you and your clients? I like to talk a lot in collaboration, like here are the things I'm doing with my clients. Anytime we meet, we try to talk about our wins and our successes, and so that we can, learn from each other. And in that same time, I'm getting to hear how my clinicians are running their sessions. And then we try to get feedback from clients as much as we can. I mean, we're kind of bound. It's hard for us to ask, but I like to walk in and out of the space and meet some of the people that are coming in, and that they tend to then elicit some information around that. I find that it's just really important that you're bringing people on that really connect with your own values. And like you mentioned, I don't typically provide a new modality at our office unless I have personally done that modality myself.
Mm-hmm.
And so that I feel connected to the integrity of that modality too, right? And so when my other clinicians, I ask them, are you ready to be trained in something new or something different?
Mm-hmm.
Then we'll work through some of that modality, either myself with them. So I've even run some ketamine sessions with my clinicians because I want to make sure that they truly understand what their clients are going through. And then that brings that compassion, that empathy, that understanding. And that goes with my core values and continues to just grow on the integrity that I'm looking for.
I love hearing that. And I find that very unique, your take on how I think it's a great idea because I'm meeting therapists, psychiatrists, and I'm always wondering, I'm like, but have you gone through this? Have you done that yourself? Are you doing the work yourself? And I know a lot of therapists who are not followed by therapists or are not doing therapy, or people who are running ketamine treatment but who haven't experienced it themselves. And that makes me feel a bit icky. I mean, I follow the process and I trust the process. Like, I don't necessarily need to think that you need to go through all the things to be like perfectly knowledgeable, but there is a disconnect, right? There is a disconnect if you haven't gone through. So I'm actually glad to hear that this is your process. So it means there's centers who are working like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Nicole, I have, and this is one of my last questions. So I want to talk about imposter syndrome, which I'm sure you have a lot of people talk about. This is a subject a bit dear to my heart. So given your background in trauma healing and working and possibly working with female entrepreneurs, what are the most common mental health patterns that you see holding women back in business? And what are maybe some evidence-based strategy that you recommend for overcoming them? The $1 million question.
Right. So, I mean, obviously, a big one is going to be anxiety. So, I ride in that frequently as well, right? Like just wanting your business to be successful and watching the waves of, where it's coming and then it's going. And so, how do we work on that anxiety, right? So, we do a lot of mindfulness, a lot of breathing techniques. I go back to there is plant medicine, there is ketamine, there's work that can be done. The neurofeedback can be very, very helpful in calming that central nervous system down. So finding some of those tools that really work on calming the internal system so that you are able to use your full capacity of your brain that you need as you're running your business.
Mm-hmm.
And then that can be based also from trauma. So there's a lot of trauma that's usually riding in there that might be giving these parts of you that is this perfectionist and these parts of you that is this taskmaster that has to get everything done, or this people pleaser. But then the goal would be trying to understand, like, where did that come from? What led that part to be formed within you? And let's do some healing work around that. And so that can be done through EMDR, and that can help process some of that trauma. Or also, a faster route is working with ketamine therapy, because then we help you go internal. So when you're working with psychedelics and with ketamine, it's all a process of an internal healing. So it's very non-directive. In my practice, you're putting eye mask on, headphones on, and we talk about what we call the inner healing intelligence. And you're going inward after we've done some prep sessions to know about what's our intention for this, right? So if you have a business that you own and you're a mom and you are struggling with the mom guilt, right? Then we might set an intention around that. And that's help me understand where this guilt is coming from. Help me heal this guilt that I am carrying inside of me. And then because I went internal, what that says is that your subconscious already knows how to heal that. You already know what you need to hear to heal it. The ketamine is helping you connect with that and understand it better. And then we come out of the experience with a better understanding of what I call this message. And when you work with ketamine and with some of the other psychedelics, you have this ability to create new neuroplasticity in the brain. And so that's these new roads. And so if I have this, I'm not doing good enough job, right? Or I am failing as a mother. Then I go into a ketamine experience and I can come out of it, or other psychedelic experiences, and I can come out of that with this message around, I am doing the best I can.
Mm-hmm.
And then I work with my therapist on making sure that that is the new road that I take on a regular basis. And then you'll see your relationships around you start to just transform and change because I'm now taking that new road.
Wow, that's really profound. And so, Nicole, if you had to give yourself an advice to you 8 years ago when you're about to launch your business, what would you tell yourself? Or what's a bit like red flag and you're like, girl, don't do this, but do that? What would that be?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of those. One, don't trust every marketing company out there that wants $5,000-$10,000, right? Like, just because they want that much money does not mean they're all that good, right? Like I'm not saying they're all bad, but I definitely would have done a lot more connecting with other business owners faster and learn that are in that industry, right? And learn like who are some of their contacts? What marketing people have they worked with? What worked? What didn't work? Instead of just thinking, I can do this all on my own. I don't need any help. And that I think that's a part of one of those that I would have lean on more people for that support and that help. They've already been through it. They know, and help take that knowledge in to give you an opportunity to like not fail at all of these different, sometimes money marketing schemes, in trying to scale fast. The other thing I would probably tell myself, and which I've learned in a number of my own plant experiences, is that I need to trust the process, that there is a process, and these challenges are also a part of the process, and that it will come. Because I know I know what I am trying to manifest. I know what I am trying to put out there and do. And if I trust myself and I trust the process, then it will come. It might not be in 3 months. It might not be in 6 months. It might take 5 years, but it will eventually be what you are wanting it to be. And that will maybe relieve some of the anxiety that I rode in for so long in the beginning.
Wow, that sounds like unshakable confidence in yourself.
Now, yeah, I'm not sure I had the confidence as much, but there's that imposter syndrome too.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Nicole. This was such a pleasure to have you on the show, and I'm sure it's going to be so helpful to so many therapists who are thinking about starting a business or scaling their businesses and in the trenches. And it was really enlightening. Thank you so much for being a guest.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
And Nicole, where can people find you and find information on Serenity?
So our website is serenitywellnessandcounseling.com. We're also on Facebook. We're on Instagram, all of which is just Serenity Wellness Counseling. We are in Cypress, Texas. So if you look up Serenity Wellness and Counseling Center in Cypress, Texas, you are going to see us on Google or all of those locations and on all the social media stuff. So we try our best to continue to put educational items out there. We can be reached through our phone. It's 281-944-7922. And you can speak to one of our client care specialists who will guide you through whatever process. Or if you want to reach out and speak to me directly, they'll go ahead and put a consultation or a blocked out time on my schedule, and I am more than willing to chat with anybody that's interested in any of the modalities that we do, or the things that we don't do at the time because we're limited on what we can work with due to regulations. But there are still forms and ways that you can get help if you are interested in working with other psychedelics as well. We encourage you to come in. We offer lens neurofeedback at a really low rate for your first session. It's only $30 just to give you an opportunity to come in and see the space, talk with Brian, understand your healing journey, and then decide from there if it's the right one for you. And then all of our other therapists will help with consultations too. So we're just really important to us that we are forming right relationships, and we know that that's a part of the healing experience. We want to make sure that that's what's happening for people. So that's our first step.
Amazing. Thank you so much again, Nicole. This was such a fun episode.
Yeah. Thank you.
And that wraps up today's episode on Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Anis Cayez, and I can't wait to join you again next week.
Thanks for listening to Parlez-Vous CEO today. If you enjoyed the show, leave a 5-star review. It helps us keep going. And connect with us on Instagram at Parlez-Vous CEO. I am Anis Cayez, and I know some days are harder than others. On those tough days, think back to why you started. What you're doing today matters, even when you can't see the results yet. Ideas are great, but it's what you do with them that counts. Find everything we talked about today at parlezvousceo.com. See you next week, and you've got this.